In this video, we'll be taking a look at Tollgate reviews. It's a frequent meeting activity that happens at the end of each phase of a DMAIC project. We'll be looking at the Tollgate review at the end of the define phase, and the specific learning objectives will be to compare Tollgate review meetings with other types of project-driven meetings, to provide a list of common artifacts that you'd bring to a Tollgate review meeting, and to review the activities and decisions that are frequently made inside a Tollgate review meeting. So I think the best way to describe what a Tollgate review is to compare it to what it is not. A Tollgate review is not. It's not a status meeting where we're bringing our team together and we're reviewing the activities that just happened and the activities that we're about to perform. A Tollgate review is not, it's not a facilitated problem-solving session where we're bringing the team in the room and doing some sort of group activity. A Tollgate review is typically a meeting that involves not always just the team leader, but usually the team leader and the sponsor, or the key decision makers associated with the process improvement project. So it could be the sponsor as well as the process owner, for example. And in a Tollgate review meeting, here's what we're hoping to determine. The most important objective of a Tollgate review is at a major milestone break to make a decision should we continue to move forward with this project. Is there still value in proceeding forward with this initiative? It's a go, no-go style decision. Another secondary objective of a Tollgate review is, did we perform enough activities and group problem solving, and is our investigation for this particular phase complete enough to the level of satisfaction for us to make that go, no-go decision? Typically what we're doing is we're reviewing our findings and then making decisions on moving forward. So let's now take a look at what are some of the artifacts that I'll typically bring to a Tollgate review meeting, and go over some of the common discussions and decisions that are made as a result of a Tollgate review. So here's a list of the things that I typically bring to a Tollgate review, where I'm, as a team leader, meeting with the sponsor and probably other decision makers, maybe the process owner, on a go, no-go decision related to this initiative. On day one, we assumed that this poor performance was something that in future state we'd want to improve. And so a whole process improvement team was formed around it. Now, after we've done some current state analysis, mostly from qualitative data collection, our team and myself as the team leader, we have a lot more insight. And I want to share those results with decision makers so that we can make that go, no-go decision. In most cases, it's going to be, oh my gosh, this process is actually much worse than we originally thought, and we definitely need to move forward. But in some cases, the whole reason why we have the Tollgate review, in some cases we find this process just isn't as broken as what we first thought. Maybe it was just a squeaky wheel that had brought to our attention this issue. It was a 1 in 10,000 event that really wasn't that impactful to our customers or to the organization, or business imperatives have changed. There was a change in the competitive landscape, or there was a very impactful and unforeseeable event that occurred, like a pandemic, or a complete disruption of a supply chain, or a complete disruption of our competitive landscape. Whatever the reasons are, we want to have these check-ins to find out, should we continue to move forward with this project, or should we place it on hold or stop it? The things that I bring, I kind of group into an always or sometimes pile. And this list, from project charter to stakeholder analysis to critical to quality variables, this list should be familiar because it's exactly the commonly used tools and activities that we've been exploring in our DMAIC summary sheet, the tools that are commonly used in any sort of DMAIC-based project. And this is just a blown-up version of the define phase of that summary sheet. And in your workbook and on the course materials website is a more detailed version of that summary sheet. I always bring the charter with me with the goal statement inside and a high-level process map to have that discussion with the sponsor and key decision makers. I don't always bring all of the analysis that my team has performed. Occasionally, if I can, if the artifacts that were created are in a nice format that is easy to understand and read, I'll bring it. Otherwise, in some cases, the project is small enough that I can just talk through these other sometimes artifacts. The goal, though, is to make sure that those decision makers have a clear understanding why we, as a team, have decided that we need to move forward and collect that quantitative data in the measure phase, why we need to continue to explore for root causes and build a better future state, or why the team thinks that this process is actually performing at a high enough level that we don't need any further investigation. So these are sometimes tools. There are other artifacts that could be considered. Let me give you a list of other things that you might want to bring in to one of these Tollgate review meetings. Other artifacts that you may want to consider bringing to a Tollgate review include a SIPOC diagram. A SIPOC diagram is a summary document that shows all of the suppliers and inputs that affect the process upstream, all of the outputs and customers that are affected downstream from the process. A good summarization document. And sometimes SIPOC diagrams also include some of the future state requirements that are needed in the solution. A cost benefit analysis where we're taking a look at the cost of imperfection that current state is weighing on the organization, a monetization of that cost of imperfection. And in the world of process improvement, those cost benefit analysis reports are sometimes called a cost of quality analysis. Lots of organizations like to just summarize it in one simple document instead of all of these artifacts that I've been describing. Let's just have one single sheet of paper. Let's make it an 11 by 17 sheet of paper called an A3 sheet of paper and put the entire project roadmap and summary of findings on that one single sheet of paper. We call it an A3 report out form. And it's a great tool that I will sometimes bring to a Tollgate review, especially if the organization supports that type of summarization report out. In some cases, if we're not only considering improving an existing system, but we're building we're building a process from scratch. We might want to take a look at market research findings, competitive landscape documents, SWOT analysis, and in some cases, I'll bring to Tollgate review meetings other active project roadmaps. And I do this because I may want to point out that while our project is moving along, that there may be other more important projects that need to consume resources, people's time and effort, and it might be a reason why we're placing the project on hold. Not that the process isn't performing well, but in the grand scheme of things, it's a small initiative compared to other more important initiatives to move forward with. All of these, though, are things that we would want to consider bringing to a meeting in which we're making a go, no-go decision. Let's take a look at that full listing then. The concern I always have when it comes to Tollgate reviews is that there are lots of artifacts that you could consider to bring. You don't want to overwhelm your audience. You have very limited amount of time in these Tollgate reviews. People's time is precious, and I typically schedule Tollgate reviews to last less than a half an hour. It is not an exhaustive debrief on all the analysis. It's just to help the key decision makers and you, the team leader, make that go, no-go decision. Sometimes when reviewing these documents, though, there are some changes that you want to make to the project, and they might include scope changes where the original project was scoped too small and we want to increase scope, or more frequently, the original project was scoped too large and we've now found that the process isn't broken everywhere. It's most frustrating only in a particular area, and we scope down based on the number of steps, or we'll scope down on customer types. Not all customers are affected equally. Maybe we'll scope down on product SKUs. Not all products are performing in the poor, frustrating way. Could be scoping down by geographic region. Not all of our branches or locations are experiencing this. Only a couple are. It could be scoped down based on shift types. We're only going to take a look at first shift versus second or third shift. Scope changes can sometimes occur at the end of these Tollgate reviews. There is frequently modifications that are made to the goal statement. Sometimes what we'll find is that our initial performance metric that we put in the goal statement was maybe uh, a performance goal that really only satisfied the needs of one work group within the organization, didn't reflect the needs of our end users or customers, didn't really reflect the frustration that is being found in the process. So we might update that performance goal statement. And in some cases, we are redefining the methodology used. We might take a look, and if the project was initially scoped as a DMAIC style project, we thought that it was a process that affected multiple work groups or maybe the entire organization. And upon further review, we're finding that it is local to one work group area. We might want to not only change scope and change the goal statement, but also change the methodology used, use a Kaizen approach. Both of them are data-driven problem-solving techniques, but the Kaizen event ideally suited for smaller scoped initiatives. These are some of the decisions that are made in a Tollgate review, and then we'll use those decisions to help inform the team and create a roadmap for what to perform or what we'll need to do next in the measure, analyze, improve, and control phases. Tollgate reviews, we do them at the end of each major phase. We've just taken a look at the define phase Tollgate. I'll do this at the end of each of the 5 steps associated with DMAIC problem solving.